Your parents of the 20th century. Your parents betrayed you.
They sold you out.
Most of you, your parents might as well be members of the Ku Klux Klan because your parents have committed acts of treason and genocide against you. First and foremost, your parents brought you into this world and they refused to tell you, teach you, or educate you as to whom your enemies are.
They refuse to tell you.
Because they don't see Daniel Pantaleo and Darren Wilson and Eugene DeCock. Your parents don't see them as the enemy. Your parents see them as daddy. And Eugene DeCock, your parents don't see them as the enemy. Your parents see them as daddy. And Eugene DeCock, your parents don't see them as the enemy. Your parents see them as daddy. And I mean that literally the way I'm saying it. Most of you, your mothers would have no problem wrapping themselves around Daniel Pantaleo after he murders one of you. And I'm not saying that hyperbolically, I mean that literally. The mental and emotional schism in them runs so deep that they demand and are so desperate, so hopelessly desperate for their approval in white supremacy's eyes that they would let all of you die for the chance to welcome your killer to their bed. And I'm not overstating it. I'm not saying something is untrue. I'm not going over the line. I mean it literally. You just saw what they just said in South Africa. Hello? You see how they raise you here in America. Now, let's take a look at another group of people. Another group of people who are uncompromising. And oh yeah, your parents owe you something about that too, by the way. Let's talk about Jews. You go and try to talk to them about forgiving Heinrich Himmler, forgiving Eichmann, forgiving Edelman, forgiving Goebbels. You go and talk to them and start the conversation about, well, shouldn't we have forgiveness? You see, for Jews, there was no Truth and Reconciliation Commission. You see, that was what the white regime in South Africa demanded. A, quote, Truth and Reconciliation. It was not a Truth and Justice Commission. They did not want justice. We want reconciliation. We want you to reconcile with your rapists and with your child killers. Because the Blokpas was South Africa's version of the Nazi SS. I mean, it was literally a secret police. So that was the Nazi SS, that is the Blokpas of South Africa. South Africa's secret police that would kidnap and kill. But the United States is not trying to reconcile with terrorists. The United States is trying to kill people who are against its best interests. In Africa, however, Africans are not building anything. And when you are not building anything, you are not protecting anything, and that includes your own children. Oh, these are hard truths to swallow tonight. These are hard truths to accept. And your parents won't tell you this. Why? Because your parents are also worthless bastards who ain't building nothing. So they hate it when you start talking about, Mom, Dad, what are you building? Because if you're building something, that means you have an obligation to your children as part of that legacy. Your parents are building nothing. They give not a damn about you. Let the police come and kill you, one less mouth to feed. After all, they didn't really want you here in the first place. You were just a product of your mammy not taking birth control like she said, or your daddy saying it feels better with no condoms. Well, there you are. Oh, I'm hurting a lot of people tonight because you don't. These are the truths. Now, you know from your life, you can see that's clearly what happened, but it's hard. It's hard because this is the first time a lot of you have heard of this. With someone who just said it straight out, and lightning didn't descend from the sky, the earth didn't open up and swallow me, a black hole didn't pop up in the sky and suck me in. I said the truth, and the truth will set you free. It will. but first it's gonna tick you off. And that's exactly what's happening now, but it is the truth. You see, Jewish people were not about to sit back and let the killers of their children walk free. They had Nuremberg. Nuremberg was not about reconciling with you. Nuremberg was about wrecking you, not reconciling. It was about finding their enemies and exterminating them. Because their enemies tried to exterminate them, and there is nothing you can do with a vicious killer. You cannot rehabilitate him, you cannot reconcile with him, you can only remove him. That's all you can do. And black people made it our cultural practice that we try to make love to our killers, to our murderers. We love our murderers more than our own children. That's sick. That is demented. That's evil. Your parents of the 20th century, your parents betrayed you.
They sold you out.
Most of you, your parents might as well be members of the Ku Klux Klan because your parents have committed acts of treason and genocide against you. First and foremost, your parents brought you into this world and they refused to tell you, teach you, or educate you as to whom your enemies are.
They refuse to tell you.
Because they don't see Daniel Pantaleo and Darren Wilson and Eugene DeCock. Your parents don't see them as the enemy. Your parents see them as daddy. And Eugene DeCock, your parents don't see them as the enemy. Your parents see them as daddy.